Hello, guys and girls. Welcome here tonight to another English stream. My name is Chris, and today we're gonna talk about communication. Stay tuned. So, as I already told you in the introduction, today we're gonna talk about communication. Not only about communication, we talk about communication in the English A-level exam. The exam you have to complete in your, which is not you have to complete. The A-levels are your final exams. So, very important topic, of course. And I'm gonna dive right into it. The overview of today's stream is as follows. At first, I'm gonna give you a short overview of the topic communication. Then I'm gonna tell you something about the methods of communication. After that, we'll be talking about verbal and non-verbal communication. Then the pros and cons of digital communication methods. And then this is followed by the impact of digital communication methods on verbal and non-verbal skills. Then the future of communication, and in the end, I gonna show you just one demonstration exam analysis, communication, digital communication. In this case, it's just the demonstration exam itself, but I hope that you can learn out of it that it's how it looks like, or how the exam or how the instructions of the exams might be formulated, or if you have any troubles or have worries that you don't know how the exam might look like, just wait until the demonstration exam part and I'm gonna show you. Of course, we have other demonstration exam streams, so you can check them out. Just type in the search function of YouTube, or better on our channel, type in which topic you're interested in, and then you're gonna find the demonstration exams with this topic. So I'm gonna start with the overview of the topic communication. So as you all know, there is a list of topics you have to know to be able to pass the exam successfully. Since 2018, since autumn 2018, there are 10 topics. With every class that started before, there are still the 12 topics. You have your own list. Normally, the teacher should have given you by now an outline. And the basic outline of the topic communication is that it's subdivided into mass media, internet, and mobile phones. And basically, these are the subtopics of the book Berufsreifeprüfung, Hauptmodul Berufsreifeprüfung, so on and so on. Very long title, but I think you know which book, I mean. So without further ado, I'm gonna talk a little bit about those topics, or the outline basically. Of course, there are some additional topics. I think it's about mobile phones and internet communication, Facebook. But of course, in this example here, where is it? Yeah, here we already have internet and mobile phones, which also covers this topic. So the topic communication is subdivided in mass media, which can be subdivided into TV, newspapers, and magazines. Then internet and mobile phones, which can be subdivided into the internet, mobile phones, social networking. Of course, mass media, there's other mass media. These are the more traditional ones. Of course, all types of news media nowadays, which also includes all the news you get via WhatsApp or Telegram maybe, or SMS is also mass media. You're also receiving mass media, but these are the traditional ones. Of course, there is radio, maybe podcast, yeah. But nowadays, of course, the focus will lie on the internet and mobile phones, which has become quite crucial over the last 15 to 20 years. Very important for companies, for yourself. If you want to start a business, use Instagram or Facebook. You know what I mean, I think. And then we're gonna move on to the methods of communication. Basically, the methods of communication can be subdivided, or I subdivided it into traditional communication, by which I mean that traditional is, for example, phone, letters, fax, all basically the old school stuff. Just think about how can you communicate, or how people used to communicate, and then you can think about more. So if you have more topics, you are more means of communication, traditional communication or communication nowadays, post it in the comment section below this video, and yeah, we will be happy to have some comments in there in order to gain knowledge. No. We of course want you to think about other things, so that we just don't simply present to you guys. What other means of or methods of communication are there? Of course, communication nowadays is heavily dependent on the internet, on mobile phones, on computers, on tablets. I haven't even listed it here. Computers, tablets, what else? There are a lot of things out there, how we communicate. And then, of course, a sub branch or like, yep, sub or an aspect of this, or part of the internet, let's put it like this. A part of the internet is, of course, Facebook, all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email, WhatsApp, Skype, very important for conferences. If you're thinking about doing a job in a well-known company or at a bigger company or even a mid-sized company, you will have to do Skype conferences, and they will probably be with a customer or a partner. And Skype enables you to do conferences, talk like me on to a camera, in a camera, and yeah, stream it live. Actually, it's a you don't have any time lag, and you can just lead a interesting conversation or a business conversation. Yeah. And then, of course, methods of communication. I also put verbal and non-verbal communication on there, since it is more or less a category of communication, but it's very important, which is also our next thing we're gonna talk about. And at first, I've put on a citation, not a citation, a citation, can't remember the word, which is from Paul Watzlawick, man kann nicht kommunizieren. It translates quite funny in English, so that I decided to do it in German. In English, it would be something like, you cannot not communicate, which is quite confusing, but in German it's also quite confusing, of course, because there are two negatives in there. Yes. Verbal and non-verbal communication. Why did I put that quotation in there? That's because it heavily supports non-verbal communication. And I'm gonna start with the non-verbal part. Since we all communicate somehow. And if you're doing, I just have to find, here's the cursor. You have to do presentations in your oral A-level exam. If you don't know how nonverbal communication looks like, or better, let's put it better in a way like, if you don't know how to use nonverbal communication, you will definitely have a disadvantage in the oral exam. And therefore I've outlined certain aspects of nonverbal communication that might help you just to improve your knowledge and your basically your knowledge and your things, your skills, basically. Yeah, your skills. And one aspect, of course, is body language. Body language, we know it's all important if you do, very important if you're doing a presentation. Body language is very important. If I'd be sitting here with my arms crossed and my head down, it wouldn't look that appealing to you. So therefore, although I'm sitting, which is not my preferred position, but it's the way it is, I try to have at least eye contact with you. I try to use my arms or my hands and sit straight. Use some facial expression, gestures, very important, like my thingies with the hand, eye contact, posture, of course, very important. If you're sitting too in the oral exam, so make sure that you sit up straight. And of course, another aspect is or are clothes. Very important which clothes you're wearing. Of course, you have these things are very easy to practice, I think, or at least the basics are really easy to practice. So therefore, you should put in some work too in order to impress the person you're speaking to, since it makes a huge difference if somebody has a knowledge or has some skills. Maybe he's just a natural in it, he or she is just a natural in it, but of course, if you're not a natural in it, or if you have worries or concerns on how to do it, use these things or ask us and we're gonna help you out. But you can also, of course, there are a lot of resources on the internet how to impress one or make a good presentation and all that stuff that involves or all the aspects around it. I've written it down anyway in the very last line here, especially important for presentations, which is of course focused on both nonverbal and verbal communication. Therefore, we're going to shortly discuss verbal communication. What is verbal communication? So the word verbal basically explains it. But verbal, of course, can be written or spoken. If you write something, you have the word in your mind and you process it and write it down on a sheet of paper or on your computer on the screen. Doesn't matter. Verbal communication then involves emails, phone calls, face-to-face conversation, Skype or real time, or not in real time, in real life, or text messages, all the funny stuff we're doing basically, or you might have to do in a future job or something. Yeah, that's basically it about verbal and non-verbal communication. If you have questions, please ask us. We are very happy if we can help you out if you have any problems. So let's move on to the pros and cons of digital communication methods. I'm sorry. So, of course, I first have to mention that, of course, there are a lot more pros and cons. I've listed only a few. So if you have more pros and cons, if you think you're more creative than me, just post it in our chat. We haven't got any questions so far, unfortunately, but don't hesitate and post it in our comments section. So the pros of digital communication methods are they're fast, very efficient, effective, almost no lag, which is of course almost no lag, which of course is very important nowadays if you want to write something very fast. If you want to have a fast answer, you almost have no lag, which also depends on the internet connection you have. And of course there's simultaneous transmittance, which goes hand in hand with the almost no lag and fast aspect of, or pro. Yes. And then the cons, of course, there are cons. No real face-to-face communication possible, which with real, I mean you don't have the person sitting in front of you. Even when it's Skype, it is different if you're talking to a person directly. Then, of course, there is cyberbullying. If you have communication, or if you lead your communication via Facebook or Instagram, of course, there are a lot of people that want to trick you or scam you. And of course, cyberbullying unfortunately has become a very big issue in the, let's put it, in the internet community or in the social networking community. Yes. And the other things, or the other negative aspect basically, is the sharing of personal information. Whenever you're registered to a platform such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or other social media, you agree to the terms of privacy or policy of Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so on. And of course, this means that there are a lot of things that are shared. Personal information is shared, of course. Yes, you have to be very careful with it. But we're gonna move on with the impacts of digital communication methods on verbal and nonverbal skills. I came up with the question, do people lose their nonverbal communication skills? If you're watching the stream not in the live mode, but the stored video from YouTube, just think about the question and maybe answer it by yourself. I think it's a very personal question. We couldn't really tell. Maybe it's nonverbal communication skills. We do not lose them at all since we have Skype conferences, or how's it called, FaceTime or other video chats via WhatsApp. And another question is emojis as a substitute for nonverbal communication. So you're probably using emojis when you're writing with your best friends. And somehow those emojis substitute an emotion. And you're using it for showing your emotion. Even if there are some people post everything on Facebook. So there might be somebody who's posting about I'm feeling very sick, and then you can add an emoji or your status or anything, which can be maybe a substitute for nonverbal communication. Or what do you think? Maybe it's maybe I'm on the wrong path, but I think it's very important, has become important over the years. And of course there is fast short communication. Fast short communication, yeah. Okay. What I meant with it was abbreviation, basically. Abbreviations basically as lol or something. Very short word or short, yeah. Communication, combination of certain words and that help you to write faster, communicate faster. Yes, that's basically the things that came into my mind very quickly, basically, when I thought about the impact of digital communication. Then we're gonna move on with the future of communication. I've written down a question mark here, and I'm gonna explain you why. The future of communication, I think, is very hard to tackle, and therefore it is very important for you as a student to think about the future of communication by yourself. Of course, I will give you some input now, but of course it depends on the person and their attitude towards communication in general. So is this person using a lot of modern means of communication, or is he or she just still writing letters to somebody or someone, or emails maybe? But therefore I written down this question mark, but now I'm gonna tell you what I think about the future of communication. And I think that communication will become more and more important, especially digital communication, and especially the means we're using, the tools basically. Nowadays we have mobile phones and tablets, but I think especially when we consider advertising in combination with communication, the future will bring us advertisements in WhatsApp, maybe advertisements in different, I don't know, places we have been, and there are screens in those places, and when we visit again, they somehow know what we're buying or what we love to do, and they gonna put some ads on those screens while we're in a room. And yeah, I think it will become a quite interesting development. So you should of course come up with your own conception of, or with your own concepts or your own imagination of how the future of communication could look like. And therefore, future of communication, point 6 on today's stream, in today's streams, stream, and therefore we're gonna close the stream with a short demonstration exam. Of course, there should be the analysis, but as I've told you, that unfortunately that's not possible today. But I'm gonna show you an exam about communication, digital communication basically, and I've created task 1, only task 1. In this case, as I've already mentioned, digital communication, the role play monologue speaking part. Of course, task 1, and this should be not 3 to 4 minutes, it should be 4 minutes now. Task 1 now is 4 minutes. Remember, in this case, the situation is you are a communication manager at a big international company. You have been asked to hold a talk in front of your colleagues, which are the examiners, about the importance of digital communication nowadays. Your task now is to give a brief introductory talk to your colleagues about the importance of mass media and communication nowadays. What you should talk about, the famous 3 bullet points. What digital communication is, the role of digital communication in business communication nowadays, the benefits and drawbacks of digital communication. So I think the first bullet point is really easy. What digital communication is, you can easily explain it. The role of digital communication, and especially connected with business communication nowadays, you need to have some sort of special knowledge, or knowledge you should have acquired during the course. And then the last bullet point, benefits and drawbacks of digital communication. I think it's not that hard. We have already talked about it, so look it up on the internet with your book and so on, so that you can easily solve an exam like this. Of course, keep in mind it's a monologue and it's 4 minute long monologue, and you're doing a you're doing a presentation or something similar, a talk or something. Therefore, you have to be in your expert role. In this case, it's a communication manager. So don't forget about your introduction, dear blah blah blah, dear colleagues, or dear all, or dear audience, or you just start with, I want to welcome everybody today, blah blah blah. We have some awesome streams on this topic too. Anyway, that was it for this stream today. I hope you enjoyed it and you gained some new knowledge that you can